What's up, everybody? Welcome to Touchdown Texas, episode 21. We're officially now in the off season, so me and Nick will be putting out a lot of content. But today is MLK Day, so happy MLK Day to everybody. And it's the national championship game tonight, Ohio State and Notre Dame. But Nick, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. So excited to talk today about little preview of the national championship game between Ohio State and Notre Dame, and then also getting into the draft. Got a lot of guys that are going, so I'm pumped.
Yep, for sure. So, yep, we're going to be talking about the national championship game, the players that have entered the draft, how many Longhorns do we think are going to get drafted. Then we're also going to give a shout out to the players that are coming back because we had some three key guys that announced their intentions to come back to Texas. But first, let's start tonight the national championship game. The Ohio State Buckeyes, who unfortunately beat the Texas Longhorns, and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, kind of America's Cinderella team, who
Yeah,
beat Penn State, and they're in the championship with Marcus Freeman, who's an awesome guy, by the way, an awesome coach. Give me your preview. What are you looking for tonight?
I think it can be a stalemate as far as Notre Dame. Notre Dame can, I think, slow down Ohio State. They have one of the best defenses. I would put Texas, Penn State, Ohio State, Notre Dame all in that same category as really, really good defenses. To me, the key is we know how much Ohio State can score. They scored even with us shutting down Jeremiah Smith. They have a great run game. They have two other stud wide receivers. The key is, can Notre Dame score enough points? Texas, unfortunately, could not. We had a chance to punch it in, but we couldn't. Can Notre Dame do it enough? They did in their last few weeks. They might need it for some turnovers, but that's the key. I think defensively, they can definitely match up and slow them down, but they have to score enough points to win the game. That's going to be huge.
Yep, and to score points, Notre Dame could score in bunches, but they also could go in offensive lulls, as you've seen throughout the playoffs. So if Ohio State stops their running game, because Notre Dame has two really talented running backs, Darian Price and Jeremiah Love, if they stop the running game and make Notre Dame one dimensional, can Riley Leonard beat them not only with his legs but with his arm? Because so far against Georgia, it was mainly Riley Leonard with his legs, and it was the Notre Dame running game. But he's going to have to make some plays throwing the ball. They're going to have to throw the ball deep because these Ohio State corners, they're really good, but we can see that they can be getted a little bit. So that's going to be the key for me. And can Notre Dame avoid third and longs and keep the favorable down situations in order to continue to move the ball and keep the ball enough where it keeps the Ohio State offense off the field. For what Ohio State has the ball, how are they going to guard Jeremiah Smith? Because after the
Yeah.
Texas game, Ryan Day was like, we're not going to allow him to have only one catch for 3 yards again. But Texas played a lot of zone on Jeremiah Smith, and they had a lot of safety bracketed to him. So how will Notre Dame play him? But as we know, if you put too much coverage on Jeremiah Smith, like Booba can beat you and Carnell Tate can beat you, and their tight end is really good. So how are they going to defend this Ohio State offense? And if you put too many safeties back and play coverage too much, what will Ohio State do? They'll just pound you with the running game. So Ohio State's a very difficult offense to stop, and let's just see how this talented Notre Dame offense is going to defend them.
Absolutely. I think you said it very well. I think they're going to try to get Jeremiah Smith involved right away. Obviously, he had a massive game against Tennessee. He had a massive game against Oregon, and then he played Texas different way. I think other teams have gone after him that way, but I mean that was one catch for 3 yards. Just credit to the Texas defense for being disciplined, but unfortunately, other guys can cut loose. So I think Day and his staff are definitely going to try to get him involved on that first possession, just to try to get him touches because he is so explosive. He's so fast and he's so strong. So I do think Notre Dame can keep up and they can have a similar game plan, but can you shut them all three down? I mean, it's tough. It's tough. I just hope we see a good battle, a good game. I think Ohio State pulls away at the end. I would say maybe like a 24-13 kind of game, or it's kind of neck and neck, and maybe they score at the very end, or have a big stop on Notre Dame. But it should be. I'm hoping for a good back and forth game and in a battle, which we should get after this great playoff run.
We should. And both teams are going to be playing with motivation. We already know Ohio State's motivation. Day was going to get fired. They were ready to run him out of the building 6 weeks ago after they lost to
Yeah.
Michigan. But
Yeah, exactly.
they took all their anger out on Tennessee. They took their anger out on Oregon. We did not allow them to take our anger out on us, even though they pulled away. Like those other two games were blowouts. The Texas game was very close all the way to the end. It's much more closer than the final score was indicative of. But Notre Dame, on the other hand, they're motivated because Marcus Freeman, felt like Notre Dame was being, disrespected. Brian Kelly, the former Notre Dame coach who's now at LSU, he basically admitted he left Notre Dame because he didn't think they could win a national championship. Well, now Freeman is trying to prove them wrong, the country wrong, that, hey, Notre Dame, we're a great academic school, but we have enough talent to be able to win a national championship. And Freeman, he's an awesome motivator. He's a great X's and O's coach. And he has a chance. If he can out-coach Ryan Day, and I'll say the same thing, if they can keep Ohio State close in the fourth quarter, let's see how Ohio State responds, because the pressure, in my opinion, I think you would agree with this, Nick, is still on Ohio State to take care of this game.
100%. 100%. It's absolutely on them. I don't think they fire their coach if they lose, but you could see the Twitter crazy people like, oh man, we lost to Notre Dame, we lost to Northern Illinois. They're frauds. We should fire Ryan Day. I don't think they actually do that if they lose, but they'd be angry. They would definitely be all over them. They have the $20 million roster or whatever, but I don't think Notre Dame really has a ton of pressure. I mean, obviously you're going to have any kind of pressure in a national championship game, but Notre Dame was doubted since week 2 after losing to Northern Illinois at home. And here they are. They're right there. Marcus Freeman's only been there. This is his 3rd season, I believe. And man, they're awesome. They're fun to watch. I like the running back. Jeremiah Love, is that right? You said?
Yep, Jeremiah Love, number 4.
Yeah. He's awesome. He was calling Ohio State out before the game even started. So he gets his wish. He gets his revenge. That was a great game, I think, last year. And so we'll see. We'll see. I'm gonna be pulling for the Irish for obvious reasons, but hopefully at least it's a good game. That's all I honestly hope for.
We need a good game, because last year's Michigan-Washington game was a complete blowout. I think even the year before that was a blowout. The last 3-4 years in the national championships have not been that great. So let's see. We need a good one. Notre Dame, they've had a great road. They beat Indiana at home, who's their rival. They beat Georgia, yes, without Carson Beck, but still, they're still Georgia. They beat a hot Penn State team who everybody got on the bandwagon of, and they were down in that game 10-0, I think, against Penn State.
In the first half.
In the first half.
Towards the end of the first half, yeah.
So if they get down against Ohio State, I like the resiliency. I like the mindset of this Notre Dame team that we're just going to keep fighting. We're going to keep playing till the very end. And for that reason alone, I think this game is going to be much closer than predicted. And I have Ohio State winning 28-21. And Nick, what was your final score again?
I said 24-13. 24-13.
24-13.
Ohio
Nick
State.
said 20. Ohio. So Nick says 24-13. I say 28-21. We both pick Ohio State, and I guess Nick will be seeing the national champions in the first game of the year next year.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I'm excited for that. I think that's going to be awesome. Both teams are going to be having new starting quarterbacks. Obviously, us with Arch, and then Will Howard will move on. I guess to the NFL, but yeah, that's going to be awesome. And that's in Columbus. And then eventually, I don't know if it's next year, but they're going to come to Austin too. So that's a great home and home. That's awesome.
Yep. And we have a home and home with Notre Dame in the 2030s. We have a home and home, and Michigan still has to come to our place at a home because we went to their place, I believe, in 2 years, Ohio State. So a lot of great football left. But again, this is the national championship game. We hope everybody enjoys the game, and we hope it's a close game. But now let's get back to Texas, because we are a Texas football show. Let's talk about the NFL draft. So a lot of Texas players declared, for the draft. Here is the list right here. Quinn Ewers, Jaden Blue, Velton Gardner, Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden, Silas Bolden, Gunnar Helm, Calvin Banks, Hayden Connor, Jake Majors, Cam Williams, Baron Sorrell, David Binda, Andre Makuba, Jade Barron, Vernon Broughton, Alfred Collins, Gavin Holmes, and Maurice Blackwell. So, Nick, last year, Texas had a record 11 players drafted in the first 6 rounds. How many players will get drafted this year out of this list?
God, How many did you just say right there? 19, 17?
Something like the 18, 19.
I'll go a little low. I mean, I'm going to definitely say we go over the mark from last year. You said 11. I'm going to say we get at least 15, 16
Ooh, nice.
drafted. I mean, there's so many guys on there. There's guys on there that, we talked about, I think in the last show or at least the show before, where we thought they would come back or we're at least hoping they would come back. I'm thinking about a guy like Jaden Blue. He's a guy that at the beginning of the year, we didn't know if he would be going to the draft or not. I know he said that, and obviously he's going. So he's going to be a nice weapon. I mean, there's so many guys. We thought Isaiah Bond, with the injury, he might come back, but obviously he's going professional. And it's going to be awesome. I'm excited to get into this.
For sure. And so before we get into this, let me tell you the players, in my opinion, that have a 50-50 shot to be not drafted. So out of this list, there's only like 4 or 5. I believe Hayden Connor, who may get drafted, but it may be in the later rounds. Silas Bolden, Gavin Holmes, David Binda, and Maurice Blackwell. So I only named 5 guys out of this 18 list that I don't think are going to get drafted, but there's still a chance they do get drafted. It's not so either way. So I believe it's going to be 14 or 15 of these guys. And there's 7 rounds in the NFL draft. We have the talent, we have the depth, and I think that we're definitely going to have guys that show out. But let's talk about some of the main guys that we think they're going to get drafted. So let's talk about QB1, Quinn Ewers, who declared for the draft. He had an amazing career at Texas. Nick, where do you think he's going to get drafted? And tell me about the draft process with Quinn Ewers.
Well, a lot of it's going to come down to his testing. How well does he test? And that's going to be coming up soon. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that happens in February. There's a Senior Bowl, which I don't know if he's going to the Senior Bowl or not. I don't think that's been confirmed or not. But I would say I think I have a late first-round grade on him. I think he's a first-round quarterback to me. I know that he's very polarizing that way. I think ultimately he gets picked in the second round, maybe by a team like the Tennessee Titans, Pittsburgh Steelers. I could see Pittsburgh re-signing Russell Wilson to a 1-year deal, and then let's draft Quinn Ewers as the future of our team, something like that to ensure him. But I don't see him going later than 3. 3 would be the latest I could see him go. Like if he didn't perform well in the – I know he's going to perform well in the interviews, but I would say is like, his what do you call it? The performance, with the scouts combine and everything. The combine. Yeah. Combine. If he doesn't do well in that, maybe he falls to the 3rd round, but I don't see him falling farther than that, just for the need of quarterbacks in this league.
Well said. I think he's going to get drafted early 2nd round, late 2nd round at the absolute latest. Pittsburgh Steelers, who Nick said, they had the 25th pick in the draft. So will they look at Quinn Ewers, or will they look at a player like maybe Jackson Dart or Jalen Milroe, who both of us are not too crazy on, but we'll dive deep into the quarterbacks in a future episode as we get closer to the NFL draft. But Quinn Ewers, he's going to interview well. He is going to test phenomenally. Like by test, I mean like doing football drills at the combine. Because last year at the Texas's Pro Day, when he was throwing on air to A.D. Mitchell and Xavier Worthy, they said he looked fantastic. He only missed like 2 balls, and he threw over 100 balls last year, and he only missed like 2 passes last year. Like he was phenomenal. He is one of the best quarterbacks in the country when he has to throw on air and there's no defense. That's not a slight, but that's very important, So they're gonna look at him, and the GM's gonna be like, he has all the tools. He's 6'3". He's getting bigger, like getting stronger physically as he continues to grow into his body. Quinn Ewers is only 21 years old. He's going to turn 22 in March. So he's going to be like the 2nd or 3rd youngest quarterback in the entire NFL, behind like only J.J. McCarthy and somebody else probably. So youth is going to be on his side. They're going to like the system that he was with Steve Sarkisian for 3 years, being trained by a quarterback guru and being in a pro style system. So with Steve Sarkisian, he put a lot of stats. He has the Michigan game. He has the Alabama game. He has that 4th and 13 play, or the whole overtime against Arizona State, where he was the reason that we won that game. So he has a lot of good tape out there. And some of his inconsistencies can be due to injury because Sark even said he was not 100% healthy all year. So they need to go back and look at when he was healthy, the production that he put up. And I'm going to call it second round. He's going to go to the Los Angeles Rams and back up Matthew Stafford. He's
Ooh.
back up Matthew Stafford for what, maybe 2 years because Matthew
Yeah.
Stafford's like 36, 37. Then he's going to take the
Yeah.
reins, and the Rams are going to be a Super Bowl team when Quinn Ewers starts.
I think that's a great fit. I mean, I like how you broke down everything with Sark because that, I mean, he runs a complex scheme, and I think that's going to help out Quinn Ewers. You're right. He is going to test well. I do like that fit. I think a team that's got a good defense, an established team. You don't want to see him go into a team like the Raiders where they're kind of a mess of an organization. They don't have a lot, but the Rams would be great. You got Cooper Kupp, you got Puka Nacua, you got Sean McVay, who can make things really easy. I think another good fit that I've heard would be the 49ers. Like if they don't get a deal done with Brock Purdy, it's another guy you got Debo, you got Kittle, you got Shanahan. Like you got so many weapons, and not that he can't win on his own without any weapons, but I mean, would you rather be with the Titans where you're still rebuilding, or would you rather be with the Rams where you can sit behind a guy, which has been a trend with Jordan Love, it's been a trend with other quarterbacks in the league where they just sit for a couple of years and then start. I think that'd be an ideal situation for him, and we'll see how it goes. But Rams is an awesome spot for him.
I'm looking at the Rams, possibly the Seahawks, even though sometimes I don't like the Seahawks have a defensive coach. I don't like young quarterbacks sometimes going with the defensive coach, even though it's worked out for CJ Stroud and worked out for Jaden Daniels. But hey, maybe the trend is changing.
Yeah.
Here's an underrated one. Nick's gonna like this one. What about the Miami Dolphins? Because we don't know what they're going to do with Tua. Tua is very injury prone.
Wow.
Again, I hope Tua plays because Tua is a really good quarterback when he's healthy. But Mike McDaniel was front and center, the Dolphins coach at Texas's pro day last year when Quinn Ewers was throwing. He was within 100 feet of Quinn Ewers all day, and he had this big smile on his face, and you could tell he was liking what he was seeing. So will they kick the tires on Quinn Ewers? Not in the first round, but maybe in the mid-second round.
Wow.
They have a lot of great wide receivers. Yes, they may lose Tyreek Hill, but I don't know I don't know if you want him in your locker room after this year, but you still have Jalen Waddle. You have some talent there in Miami. The running backs are good. How about Quinn Ewers going to South Beach, Nick?
I like Miami. He feels like a Miami South Beach kind of guy. Very chill. You're right. Tyreek might not be there, but I mean, how much do you really want him? He's kind of a problem sometimes in the locker room. So, but you still got Jalen Waddle. You still got Mike McDaniels. It's warm. Yeah. I do think if you're the Dolphins, you should draft a quarterback, whether that's Jackson Dart, whether that's Quinn, whether that's someone later, just because of Tua's health. And at this point, he's going to get banged up. He's going to get hurt. Unfortunately, we like Tua, but that would be cool. That would be a cool place. And I might have to get his jersey depending on where he goes. If he goes to the Saints, I can't do that, but Dolphins, that teal would be pretty cool. So I might have to get that and frame it. But I kind of want Miami. I kind of want Miami now that you said that. That's cool.
It's been 2 years. It's been 2 years in a row where Tua's got hurt mid-season, and Miami's playoff
too.
And Miami's playoff chances basically tanked. Well, hypothetical situation: what if mid-year? Again, knocking on wood, we do not want Tua to get hurt. We want everybody to stay healthy. But what if Tua gets hurt and you put in Quinn Ewers with those wide receivers, and you actually make the playoffs and you elevate yourself because you got an experienced quarterback playing? And Mike McDaniels does not like to run the quarterback. Quinn Ewers, we know, is not a runner. That would be a perfect fit. Another fit I would like is the New Orleans Saints, especially if they do hire Mike McCarthy, the Cowboys head coach. I think Aaron Glenn is going to be hired by the Jets or the Jaguars. I think Mike McCarthy is going to be hired by the Saints. He developed Aaron Rodgers. He helped develop Dak Prescott a little bit. That would be another good fit for Quinn.
I like those. I like a lot of these. And I think one thing that I wanted to say is last year, I know we weren't doing the show, but there was a lot of talk about J.J. McCarthy. And I know you and I were talking. We're like, well, we don't really see it. He balled out in preseason, and unfortunately, he's been hurt. Right, a lot of people thought, man, this guy's like a third-round pick, second-round pick, and he got drafted top 10. Right, so a lot of things can change quick based on how guys perform in the combine. Just the look of them. They got the size. There's a lot of similarities there. McCarthy won a championship. Right, he's a smart guy. He was in that Harbaugh offense, which is more of a run first offense, but he can still throw the ball. So I'd be interested to see like how much it changes, because everyone gets so hyped up during the season, like, oh, he lost to Georgia, like he sucks, like he's not good. But like there's so much more behind that. And when you start getting the NFL people like Chris Sims, who does an NFL podcast, who will look at the quarterbacks, and sometimes he'll blame the offensive coordinator. Like my point is, there's more that goes into it than just Quinn losing to Georgia, right? So we'll see. We know he's gonna interview well. I just think his stock could rise, and maybe someone trades up for him at the end of the first. And I like that Miami pick. That's awesome. They do need an insurance policy for Tua. That's no question about that.
The reason we were saying Quinn could go at the end of the first, because there's a rule where end of the first round players get that 5th-year option, which you could still get a quarterback cheaper in 5 years compared to if he's a second-round pick. You only get him for 4 years, then you have to re-sign him to a more expensive contract than if you would get him playing on a 5th-year option. So that's why we were saying end of the first round. And quarterbacks always get pushed up because there's always quarterback needy teams. And we know the tight ends and the Browns are going to be out because they're going to draft Cam and Shador. But the Giants need a quarterback. Like I said, the Saints, the Dolphins, the Seahawks, the Rams. There's a lot of teams out there that the Raiders. So and this is not a deep quarterback draft, and let's see what's going to happen. But we're definitely going to be talking about this more because the combine is not till the end of February 26th, I believe. And then the draft is not till April 26th. So a lot more of these conversations to be had. But let's talk about some other draft eligible guys. Matthew Golden, who became a fan favorite, I would argue, towards the end of the year. He really raised his stock. He was one of the biggest risers on this Texas team. Where do you see him getting drafted?
I think he's a first-round pick. I think for me, at the beginning of the year, or let's even go back to the offseason. Let's go back to last season. Let's do that for a second. He balled out at Houston, torched us in a game that we probably should have lost, right? Just catch it for catch it for catch. And then when we talked, we were so excited when he decided to come to Texas because we knew how reliable of a weapon he was. But at that same time, I don't think you and I could ever think like, oh, he's a first-round pick. I think we probably thought second round, maybe third-round pick. Man, at least I was wrong because, man, over the last 6 weeks, this guy has been balling out. We had a debate the other night whether who was Quinn's go-to target at the end of the year. Was it Gunnar Helm or was it Golden? You could argue it both ways, but I think he's definitely a first-round pick. He's made himself a lot of money. He's got the one-handed catch. He's reliable. He's smart. He's played a lot of football. I think he's a first-round pick. There's a lot of teams that could, similar to the Chiefs, trading back up to get Xavier Worthy. The Bills drafted Keon Coleman last year. There's going to be a team out there at the end of do the Ravens go after him? Someone like that could use another weapon for sure.
That's good. I like where your head is. Where your head is at with this, because that was a really good point. And yeah, he has a chance to go like mid to late first round because there's always a run on wide receivers, and the wide receiver class is not the greatest. There's that McMillan kid from Arizona. There's that Luther Burden kid from Missouri, but Daniel Jeremiah, who works for NFL Network, he put out a tweet saying after watching the film, he's like, Golden may be the best wide receiver in this class. And that's very high praise because he was so reliable this year. Every time Quinn Ewers needed a big play, he would either go to Gunnar Helm or Matthew Golden. Right. He had huge catches against, Georgia. Like he did his part against Georgia. He didn't get locked down at all by the Georgia cornerbacks. Neither did he against Michigan. He had some big catches against Michigan. He had a big, of course we know about the Arizona State catch. He's a big wide receiver that runs crisp routes that has really good, reliable hands. And yes, I'm going to say mid to late first round.
I think so. I mean, it's a guy that he's played a lot of football, and I think he can help your team right away. It's not a guy. It's similar to a guy like Worthy, where he's just pure speed, and you just gotta teach him the offense. This guy, you could just put him in, he'll figure it out, and he could just play football, right? I mean, I think he's just going to be an absolute weapon, and he's just going to be a guy, like, if he goes to a team that's got a great quarterback, like, what if he goes to the Texans in the second round? You know, gives Stroud another weapon, even though they don't really need another one. They've got a ton, but maybe the Dolphins take him if they get rid of Tyreek Hill. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of teams that could do it, man. Or like, let's say the Giants, or let's say they pair him up with Malik Neighbors. I mean, that would be a nice little.
Oh, that would be nasty.
After they take a quarterback in the first round, maybe they have Malik and Matthew Golden and something like that. But he's a great player, and he's just reliable. No off the field issues, no drama, just a good player. So I could see end of first, second, third. If he really falls, but I think he's, again, another guy that's going to test really, really well.
He's going to test well. He has the size. He has the work ethic. He loves football. Like, you could, he loves football. He was at Houston for 3 years. And he also has a punt returning game too. That's another asset that's going to get him drafted even higher. And I have a comparison. I saw a comp where they said Tyler Lockett with the Seattle Seahawks. Ooh. I think that would be that would like a reliable wide receiver that's a perennial Pro Bowler that can be a number one wide receiver on a Super Bowl caliber team. And I think Matthew Golden has that chance. So now let's talk about another impact player, Kelvin Banks. Ooh. Me and Nick believe he's going to get drafted the highest out of all these players. But where do you see him? Top 10, top 15? Where will Kelvin Banks go in the NFL draft?
I think he's top 5. If I look at the NFL draft right now, if you don't mind, I think there's a lot of teams that have drafted a quarterback over the last few years that are going to be looking at offensive line. And this is a guy that has been consistent. It's a guy that has been one of the better offensive line players in the country over the last 3 years. He's left early. He did not play his senior year, and he's just been awesome. So I think he's a guy that can certainly go into the top 5. There's teams like the Patriots that jump out to me, who just drafted Drake May. So even if they had the number 1 pick, which they don't, I think they're 3 or 4, would not take him, right? There's going to be teams that are going to be debating, all right, are we going to take Travis Hunter, or are we going to bulk up our offensive line, and we're going to tell Kelvin Banks? And I think New England, with Vrabel being their head coach, is least likely to go after Travis Hunter, and I think they're more likely to power up on the run game or their pass blocking and go with Kelvin Banks. So I think he'll go top 5, 7, 8 at the max, just because I think, again, he's going to test well, smart guy, one of the guys that turned around the Texas program. But I really look at New England as a spot for him. I think he would fit in incredibly at that team.
Again, me and Nick do not compare notes before we talk, but I circled New England. That was one of the teams I was looking at. And if New England talks themselves into Travis Hunter, let's just give a hypothetical scenario. I don't think it's going to happen. Let's just say they talk themselves into it. Then maybe the New York Jets, who do need a quarterback, but they just may draft a quarterback in the second round and go offensive tackle, or the Carolina Panthers, or the Chicago Bears at 9 and 10. Give another franchise left tackle for Caleb Williams. Kelvin Banks, his story is incredible. He was one of the 2 players that turned around this Texas program with Quinn Ewers, because at the time he was committed to Oregon. It did help that Mario Cristobal went from Oregon to Miami, and Kelvin Banks, being from Houston, wanted to stay closer to home. But the last season, Texas was 5-7. So, Kelvin Banks signed on. He believed in the vision of Steve Sarkisian in this Texas offense. And they basically said he wasn't even an early enrollee, Nick. He was a summer enrollee, meaning like he enrolled in June in college compared to January with some of the other guys. They said after the first week, he was the starter at left tackle. They're like, this guy is too good. This guy is too good to be kept off the field. And he only missed 1 start, which was in 3 years, which was the SEC championship game against Georgia. So he's durable. He has the arm length. He's a big burly dude. His freshman year, he went against Will Anderson in the Alabama game, and Will Anderson was a top 3 pick. Will Anderson, you didn't even know he played in the game because his name wasn't even called. He couldn't get anywhere on
Yeah.
Kelvin Banks. Even the Kansas State dude that year that ended up being a first rounder pick, the name is blanking on me, but he even stopped him. So he's been so consistent as a freshman, and he's racked up the awards, and I'm so happy for Kelvin Banks because he is a great family. His mom and dad raised him the right way. He's a great kid. He was a serious kid. I'll give you a funny Kelvin Banks story. So Kelvin Banks overlapped with Bijan. So Bijan was a junior while Kelvin Banks was a freshman. So they were doing a summer workout, and Kelvin Banks was grinding hard as well as Bijan. Bijan looked at Kelvin Banks, tried to crack a joke to him, and Kelvin Banks kind of was like, dude, like, why are you telling me a joke? Like, I'm trying to work out here. And Bijan was like, oh shoot, this guy is serious. Like, okay, like he came with a serious mindset. He's the nicest guy off the field. But when he's on the field, you see that mean streak, that tenacity, and Kelvin Banks is going to be a perennial Pro Bowler, and he's going to have a 15, 16-year career in the NFL.
Absolutely. I mean, extremely well said. Extremely well said. He's definitely one of the guys that turned the entire program around. Thanks to Quinn, thanks to Kelvin Banks. Like, it all started up front, and there's other offensive linemen that are also declaring and going to the NFL draft as well. But it all starts with Mr. Banks, and Mr. Banks is going to be going to the bank. That's for sure. And another team that jumped out to me could be Jacksonville. I could see Jacksonville making a push for him. They drafted Brian Thomas Jr. last year, who, oh my God.
Oh, beast.
He's a top 5 wide receiver, maybe. I mean, I don't know. He's so good. The Giants, the Browns, like you said, the Titans, no, they're going to go after quarterback or Travis Hunter. But, New England's right there. You said the Jets, Panthers, no. If he were to fall, the Bears, they're 10th right now. I could see them certainly going for Calvin Banks, which would be a great positional need for them, for the Chicago Bears, protect Caleb Williams. They might trade up and try to nab him, but he's definitely going to get some money, no doubt about it. He's a great player. Like you said, he's awesome off the field as well. Just a monster of a human being, and hopefully another top 10 pick for the Longhorns, just like Bijan.
Oh, he definitely is, and he's going to have a bright future. We're going to be excited to watch Kelvin Banks succeed in the NFL. So now let's talk about our last guy that we think is going to go in the first round, who's another impact draft player, the Thorpe Award winner, Jahdae Barron, number 7, local Texas guy, Austin, Texas guy, 5'12", went to Pflugerville High School. Where do you think he's going to go in this draft?
Man, there's a lot of teams that could use a corner. So I could see into the first round again for a guy like Jahdae Barron. Because I don't know, and this is something I'm going to be honest about. We haven't done our draft analysis yet, so we don't know exactly where other teams rank as far as their corner needs. But we know Jahdae is the best corner in football, so he's going to be a huge guy that every team is going to be wanting to go after. You think about the Minnesota Vikings, who need a corner. They have the 24th pick. The Houston Texans, they need a corner. They could go after Jahdae Barron, keep it in Texas. I mean, the Detroit Lions, who just got torched by Jaden Daniels, they could use a corner. I think the Commanders, they need a corner. The Bills, they could use another corner. So I think enter the first round, I think it's another playoff team that could use just an absolute shutdown, lockdown guy, another guy that's just figured it out as far as off the field. He's awesome. Every other day you see something with him praising his family, God, and, everything like that, where he just seems like an awesome dude off the field and praises everybody. He seems like just a tough kid. And yeah, I see him going to like late first round, late or mid 20s, depending how aggressive teams get for a corner. He's going to be the best one to me coming out. He just won the Thorpe Award. So I think whoever wants him, I'll say Minnesota right now at 24, maybe Houston at 25, but and he's going to be awesome wherever he goes, truly.
Definitely. And coming into this year, everybody was hyping up the cornerback Will Johnson from Michigan. And yes, he was an amazing player, and he did have some injuries this year, but Jahdae Barron really became that cornerback number 1 in college football, and he's going to translate that to the NFL. You can basically put him on an island, and he's going to, lock you down. He has good length. He has good ball skills. He's very fluid with his hips because that's how you have to be with your corner, because you have to turn one way or go the other and have to run with the player. So you have to be very flexible with your hips, and he has great technique being coached, and developed under Texas. I am proud of him because last year he would have been drafted. He was a fourth year senior last year, but he had one more year of eligibility to come back for his fifth year, and he was like, I believe in myself and I trust my work ethic and I trust my skills to be able to come back for a fifth year and get drafted even higher. And he put himself out there. I'm going to win the Thorpe Award, and he made that happen. So it could not happen a better guy, like Nick said, a high character guy off the field. He does things the right way. He's a great locker room guy. He's a great teammate, and he produced. He was a best player on the defense. That was the number one defense in the country. And every time you would see, an interception, Jahdae Barron was around the football. He had 5 interceptions last year, 11 pass deflections. So he was an impact player for us, for sure. So those are the guys that we believe that are going to be drafted in like the first or second round at the absolute latest. But now I want to transition, Nick, and let's talk about the guys that are coming back to Texas. So these 3 guys we believe would have been drafted had they gone to the NFL, but have a chance to really increase their stock with another strong year, at Texas, aka Jahdae Barron. So let's talk about the first guy, Michael Taft, another fan favorite. He was awesome this year. He got snubbed, by the way, by the SEC All-American teams. He should have been on the top 3 teams. It was ridiculous that he wasn't. But tell me about Michael Taft and how important it is that he's coming back to this Texas team next year.
Well, similar to losing, we lose Makuba, we lose Jahdae Barron. You need a vet back there and controlling our defense, and we just need a guy back there that has been there and played big football games, and that's Michael Taft. That's Mookie. So, we need him back there. He's going to make great plays. The former walk-on, becoming an All-American. He's a fantastic player. He's a ball-hawking player that we need. And truly, I think he would get drafted this year, but I think another year, just like you said with Jahdae Barron, is going to raise his stock. Now, do I think he gets up to a first-round pick? No, but I do think he can get to a second or third-round pick next year. And ball out again, kid, and no one loves Texas more than Taft. So I hope he balls out another year and creates more disruptive plays. And, man, he's awesome. He just gets better and better. This is a guy who was a walk-on, right? He had one scholarship offer to Rice. So he's smart. He walked on. Quickly they realized this kid's actually pretty good, and he became an All-American. But I'm so happy that he's back. We need him in the back in the secondary to help control some of the younger guys, the linebackers, get everyone in their places because we did lose a lot. But I'm so glad we get Mookie back for one more season.
This was huge because it looked like Michael Taft's stock was never going to be higher in the draft because he had such a great season. But no, I disagree with that notion. He has a chance to really increase his stock, for next year's draft. He had 2 interceptions, 10 PBUs, pass breakups. He led the team in tackles. He was one of the highest graded safeties in the country by Pro Football Focus. He was that quarterback for the defense. He was just a smart, heady player who was always around the ball. He was a great tackler in space, bringing the offensive player down. And yes, we're going to really need him next year because we're going to be young at secondary. We have a lot of talent, but we have some young players, so he's going to be able to really coach them up. He's going to be one of our best players on defense, and this was a big thing to shore up that back end, which is going to be really important that Michael Taft is coming back. Well, now let's talk about another player that is returning to the Texas Longhorns. Our right guard, DJ Campbell. He came in the same recruiting class as Calvin Banks and even Cam Williams, who also declared for the draft. But DJ Campbell's coming back for his senior year. He had a draft-eligible grade, but it was going to be like in the 6th or 7th round. And he's a bruiser. He's 6'5", 330. He needs to work on his pass protection a little bit, but he's a road grader in the running game. So talk about DJ Campbell's impact next year coming back.
It's huge. To me, it's similar to Taft. You need those leadership guys. You lost a lot of our offensive line. And like you said, we're talented. It's not like we have guys that aren't talented. There's 5, 4, 3-star recruits that are there, but they haven't played a lot of college football. And when you're entering a new quarterback with Arch, you need a guy in the offensive line that you can trust. Yes, he needs to be more consistent, which I think he will be. But I think it's a guy, again, that's a smart move. It's a smart money move where he's going to raise his stock, hopefully make some more money, protect Arch, get those offensive linemen in gear, and make a push for a national championship. So I think it was a smart move to come back. We definitely need him. You can't have too many young guys on the offensive line, and luckily we have him coming back for his last year. So I think it's going to be good for him and good for our team as well.
For sure. And yep, so he played sparingly. No, he redshirted his first year. He played sparingly his second year. Last year was his third year. But he was rotating a lot with Cole Hudson at right guard because he did start the year very well because again, like I said, he was better in the run game. Like he was mauling people in the run game because he's a big boy now. But when he had to drop back, his technique would get a little iffy and off sometimes. So this is a chance for him to work another year with Kyle Flood, shore up his pass protecting skills while also continuing to hone his skills in the running game. And we lost a lot of our offensive linemen, for next year. So him coming back as a senior leader will only help him, and he's going to continue to get more tape and more production and more reps, and that's only going to increase DJ Campbell's draft stock. So now let's talk about our last guy coming back, Trey Moore. He struggled the first half of the year, but at the end, towards the end of the year, his production really started to increase, and he became a really good player for us. So, how do you see him next year, and do you think he'll be able to raise his draft stock?
Absolutely. This is another guy that's like Matthew Golden that we talked. Coming from Houston, this guy came from UTSA, and he balled out. I mean, again, another guy who balled out against us, and we're like, maybe we should add him to our team. Well, you're right. He started off slow, and then something just clicked. And I think this is a guy that you go from UTSA to Austin. It's a different caliber of – it's just different, right? And I think it took him a while to get adjusted, and not to mention we were in the SEC. But he figured it out. This guy's a monster. This guy's a monster. He will definitely raise his draft stock. He will definitely help us. We have Anthony Hill. We have Colin Simmons, but we need a guy on the defensive line. And this guy is it. I think he's going to start off on a hot start next season. He ended the year on fire. Put me down for 2 big sacks against Ohio State to start the year for Mr. Moore. So I think, man, we were pumped about him when we figured out he was transferring from UTSA to Texas, and I'm even more pumped that he's coming back. I think he's going to have an absolutely massive year next year.
He was one of Nick's impact players, as we did a preview episode for this year. He was one of Nick's impact players, and
we should look back at that actually.
Yeah, no, we will. That's definitely. We have a lot of content that me and Nick have been talking about that we want to do as we continue to get in the draft, as we continue to go through the spring. So be sure to stay tuned, Touchdown Texas fans. But to talk about Trey Moore, maybe saying the word terrible to start the season was a little too much. He was not terrible. He just didn't have the stats. He was playing really good against the run, and he stayed in his gaps. He did not get out of place. He just didn't have the sack numbers that he did at UTSA, and I think that's where Texas fans were grading him on. But again, it's another level up. And he had to get adjusted to SEC play. So he was not horrible at all at the beginning of the year. He was actually like making plays, and there was a reason that he was on the field. But but since the Kentucky game, he had 1.5 sacks against Kentucky. The light bulb went off. He had 1 sack against Georgia in the SEC championship game. Unfortunately, that's where Carson Beck got injured. Hope he recovers and balls out in Miami next year. But he had also 2 sacks against Arizona State. People were talking about Quentin Golden, rightfully so, but Trey Moore was like our second or third best player that game. Arizona State could not block him, and he was just getting up blocks. He was living in the backfield, and Sam Levitt had to escape, and he saw a lot of Trey Moore that game. So Trey Moore finished the year with 5.5 sacks, that's really good, from the jump from UTSA to the SEC. But he's going to continue to go on that next level. I think a big thing he needs to improve on this offseason is he needs to work on some pass rushing moves. He only had one move last year, but if he continues to work on using his hands to get off a lineman and work on his pass rushing moves, his stats can continue to increase and he can have a big impact for us next year.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a guy that is obviously talented. He obviously has skills, but he just needs to refine them. And I think, honestly, not just because we're Texas people, but him going to Texas or him going to, let's say, Ohio State or Notre Dame, like a bigger program, is the best thing that he ever did, right? Because it's another level of strength, coach. It's another level of competition. It's more eyeballs. It's more chances that you get burned and destroyed, but it's another reason for you to get better and better and better. I mean, he was at UTSA killing people, and then he went to the SEC and, not that he was getting killed all the time. First of all, you're not always going to have the stats. When you're on Texas, your defense is loaded, right? Half the time, Anthony Hill and Colin Simmons are making the tackle, or Ethan Burke. So let's chill out on that, one. Two, you're right. It was a different level of competition. I think UTSA plays in Conference USA. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so it's not it's a good conference, but it's not the Big 12, and it's not, of course, the SEC or Big 10. So he got used to that. I think he's an awesome player. He's got the talent. I think you're right. Just refine your craft a little bit. And what better team to do that on than Texas? He's probably pissed off, as every guy that came back should be, because we lost. And what better way to have motivation? We played these guys at the beginning of next season. So that's a guy. I mean, you could get in your head and be like, they pushed me around. We weren't there. We were soft or whatever. Get in your head, whatever Michael Jordan thing you need to do to get yourself ready to beat the Buckeyes in Columbus while they're playing for their national championship. Let's go after them right now. Let's start training today. That's what I say.
And you can tell he's motivated. Ohio State and Alabama really wanted him out of the portal. Like, they were going hard on Trey Moore. So that tells you the talented player, that he is. And he's going to build off this momentum and confidence because he was awesome at the end of the year. And he was a top 5 defender for us. And I can't wait to see what he does next year. Also wanted to shout out 3 big players that came back. We expected them to return, but with now the day and age with NIL, they had to announce they're going to return. Colin Simmons, Ryan Wingo, Anthony Hill. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, other schools dropped bags, and they tried hard to get those boys to enter the portal, but those are our 3 core guys, and they're coming back. Talk about how huge and that's going to be and how big those guys are going to be next year.
Oh, my God. It's like laughable, the impact that they're going to have. It's insane. Ryan Wingo, first of all, another guy that had a slower start, right? Because, man, it's the SEC. I'm looking to my left, and I see Isaiah Bond. I'm looking to my right, and I see Gunnar Helm and Matthew Golden. Now you're the guy. Now you're the dude. I think he's going to ball out and have an amazing year. Colin Simmons, he's going to ball out and have an amazing year. Anthony Hill's going to ball out. I mean, these guys, we haven't even seen the best of Ryan Wingo. We haven't even seen the best of any of these guys. I'm not being a homer when I say that. I think we have seen the worst of those 3 players. And I mean that with the utmost respect. I think they are going to have an absolute amazing year. I think there's going to be talks for Ryan Wingo being the best wide receiver next year. There's potential for that. I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying he's so talented and gifted. And when you are the number 1 option, just like Jeremiah Smith is at Ohio State, you get more eyeballs for better or for worse, right? If Jeremiah Smith has a stinker today, everyone's going to be all over him, right? But if he balls out, they're going to be like, he's ready for the NFL, right? And he is. He's definitely ready for the NFL. So I think Wingo is going to be – I'm so excited to see the arch to Wingo touchdowns.
Ooh.
Those are going to be awesome. Colin Simmons is so gross. He's so mean. Anthony Hill is so mean. I think we've seen the worst of them. I mean that. And they're just going to get better and better and better. I think they're all first-round talents. And, I mean, it's just going to be – Texas football is getting a new level of talent, a new group of guys, and it's just going to be awesome to see for years to come.
Yes, they are. They're all going to be first. They're all going to be first-round locks, knocking on
and
wood.
Arch.
And Arch too, if they stay healthy. So I'll say one thing: Colin Simmons had 9 sacks last year as a freshman. You heard that, 9 sacks, and he didn't even start last year. So I have a hot take. I think
15.
he's gonna.
15.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think he's gonna have 14 or 15 sacks next year, and then maybe even like 17 to 18 as a junior, and then go with go with the top 10. He's gonna be awesome. Ryan Wingo, I believe he is on the level of Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith. The rest of the country
Thank you.
may think that's crazy, but those guys had more opportunities than Ryan Wingo
Thank
had.
you.
Ryan Wingo was, those guys were featured. Ryan Wingo was with Isaiah Bond and Matthew Golden, 2 guys that are go very high in the draft. So
And
you're going
Gunnar
to
Hill.
see, and Gunnar Helm, you're going to see in these next years, Ryan Wingo is going to be a number 1 wide receiver, and he's going to show it. And this might sound crazy, but if he plays to his potential, me and Nick had this conversation. I think he could be a top 3 wide receiver in Texas football history, but we could discuss that for another day.
Wow. That's huge.
And Colin Simmons also could be like a top 5 player in Texas football history because he is a
We
pass
gotta do some
rusher.
rankings at some point.
Yeah.
we gotta do some rankings to iron this out. But man, that would be if he's a top 3 receiver if he's up for debate in that means we'll win a bunch of ball games by a lot of points. So I am damn okay with that if Wingo's up there for sure.
Again, a little teaser, but stay tuned. We have some great stuff coming up. Touchdown Texas fans, and we want to get you involved too. So are me and Nick talking crazy, or do you believe that a lot of the guys have the potential? Because I believe, to say one good thing about Anthony Hill, he is going to be the highest drafted guy for us next year. He's going to be. Again, Arch is not going to enter the draft, even though he's technically
Simmons is unavailable. Wingo's unavailable.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Anthony Hill is going to be a top 10 pick for us, and he's going to be edge rusher and linebacker, and he's going to be nasty. Well, again, leaving off on that high note, thank you so much for watching this episode of Touchdown_Tex at Touchdown. Follow us at Touchdown_Texas on our social media channels on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And stay tuned. We have a lot of great, fun stuff that's coming up, in the off season, because right now the team is a little bit on a break as they're doing winter workouts, but spring football does not start until March. But again, we had the NFL draft. So me and Nick continue to do more research, we're going to have more of those conversations. We're going to do some team rankings, go back and see, our impact players from last year, maybe some trivia, some Texas football trivia or some NFL trivia. So be sure to keep it here. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Hook 'em.